Hey. Well, yesterday I did one on free will and freedom, and I made a bit of a hash of it, but hey, it was fun to do. I enjoy doing them. I put it up. But I kept bringing up about being impartial, so I thought, right, I will do one on impartial. So continuing on from yesterday's, doesn't matter if you didn't watch yesterday's, doesn't matter at all. These are all individual shows. So this is what being impartial is in the Gurdjieff work. So I'm going to start off with a quote from Life is Real, Only Then When I Am. An existence determinate and conscious, impartially evaluating itself and, in addition, gifted with the capacity of all-round perfecting and independent unity, which if we can gain to that state, then we should be able to see things impartially, think things impartially, and be impartial to what's going on in our lives and outside and inside of ourselves. Um, it's an important thing that Gurdjieff talks about a lot, being impartial. He stresses it in so many of his lectures. So continuing on with Life is Real. I hope in the moment of my last breathing to experience with no possible mental, sensitive or instinctive doubt the impulse sacred for a man, which was called by the ancient Essenes impartial self-satisfaction. The Essenes are a very important group. I've studied, I'm doing a lot of ums today. I studied a lot about the Essenes, who were a sect that lived in the Qumran area in the around the time of Jesus, the Christ. Before that, they were probably there for, I think, a couple of hundred years, if I remember rightly, before they were probably taken out by the Romans for being, or possibly even the other Jews for being a sect that was different. They were Jewish, but they did it in a more esoteric way of studying the Jewish books, texts, and very into the end times and about perfecting yourself so that you are going back to God. They did a lot of prayers, purification rituals, and things like that. It's a place where some people say that Jesus went and studied himself, and that John the Baptist did as well. It's an interesting group. Maybe I'll have to do a little show on them. I wonder sometimes if the Cathars were perhaps continuing from them. Maybe Marnie learned a lot from what they were teaching and giving. Well, not much is known about them apart from the Dead Sea Scrolls that were discovered in the beginning of the 1900s or around 1940s, which is what gave us a clue that there was a group like them there, the Essenes. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a bunch of scrolls and a copper scroll found which had some Gospels that are different from the New Testament. Well, not Gospels even. I wouldn't even say that because these were probably written before the Christ, maybe. But have versions of the Old Testament, ancient versions of the Old Testament, as well as their own books that they were studying and using for their rituals. So the Essenes were seen as an esoteric version of Judaism. Some people would say it's Christianity, but they were before before Christ. But they were teaching the same kind of thing as he was, of developing oneself and developing the soul. So this is from Meetings with Remarkable Men. You, a man who, though by origin a Kafir, a foreigner of another faith, has succeeded thanks to his impartial attitude towards all people in acquiring a soul similar to ours. So I can't remember now whether that was Gurdjieff being told that. I think it was Gurdjieff being told that by one of the remarkable men he met, saying that, like-minded people will hopefully come together and work with each other and help each other to develop. But to do this kind of development, you need to be impartial or have a sense of what it is to be impartial with everything. So continuing with Meetings from Remarkable Men. Data which has always prevented me from being perturbed by life questions, in which exclusively my own egoistic interests were at stake, and from acknowledging or experiencing any but authentic fears, while on the other hand they have enabled me, without being carried away or deluded, to understand the fear of another and to enter into his position. And that's quite an important thing of walking in another person's shoes, but you don't walk your own self in another person's shoes. You try to understand how they walk, why someone's coming from that attitude or coming with that kind of way of thinking. You know, not saying we need to know each other's life stories, but sometimes if we ponder on why someone's being like that and perhaps try to dig a bit deeper, revelations start coming out. Because as many people say, everyone carries burdens, everyone's got a problem going on in their life, you know, that they don't necessarily want everybody else to know about, but things influence us. But then things that are influencing us are the things that we're dealing with not in an impartial way. We're not looking at it with an impartial attitude. We're getting involved with it. We're becoming a part of it. So carrying on with meetings with remarkable men. The reputation of being an impartial man who humbly recognised and submitted to all the local conditions of life established by centuries. So knowledge is a great thing to get. And with that knowledge, we then need to turn it into wisdom so that we can have understanding. You know, there's many people that have knowledge, but they might not have wisdom, and the understanding then doesn't come along with it. You know, knowledge is great to find, but we need to develop it as we go along with it, ponder on it, understand why things happen or why things occur, how things work. And along with that comes the wisdom that makes you see how things operate, and that hopefully will tend you to make you more impartial about things, because you're seeing everything, the all and everything. So we're doing all and everything now. This is Beelzebub saying, well, Gurdjieff saying, I shall of course write of the earth, but with such an impartial attitude that this comparatively small planet itself and everything on it shall correspond to the place which in fact it occupies and which it must occupy in our great universe. And again, that's coming down to, you know, if we can understand the workings of the universe and the harmonious universe, how it works, the mechanical workings, the harmonious maintenance of the universe, then we have a more understanding of our place in the universe. And then Gurdjieff gives a warning. In case you decide to absorb my writings always with an impulse of partiality, let me start that again. In case you decide to absorb my writings always with an impulse of impartiality and to understand the very essence of the things I've decided to elucidate. So he's asking you to look at his book with an open mind, as he stresses, 3 times if possible, read the book. First time as a newspaper, second time as if to someone else, third time to fathom the gist. And to fathom the gist is when we start working with an impartial way of looking at things. Right, so he says, I began as commanded from above to prepare my planetary body in order during my responsible existence to be able to be impartial. And Gurdjieff tried to do that throughout his life. He tried to be impartial. In fact, tried's not the right word to use. He was doing impartiality. We want to do, not try. So try is how we practice, and hopefully we will go into a habit of doing from trying. So still from all and everything. Sincerity was atrophied to such a degree that they no longer had the possibility, even if they wished to be sincere, and not only with other beings, but even with their own selves. That is, they already could not, with one of their spiritualized parts, criticize and judge another part of themselves impartially. So this is when he's talking about how humanity was beginning to de-evolve and not work in a harmonious sense. People were either thinking or feeling instead of trying to get it all connected so that you think and feel what's happening and be helped with that way of thinking and feeling as one in a harmonious way. Helps one to look at things impartially. The transmutation in themselves of an all-round understanding of the functioning of both these sacred laws conduces to this. And those sacred laws are the law of 3, law of 7, triamasi kamno, and heptaparapassionok. That data are crystallized for engendering that divine property which is indispensable for every normal free-brain being to have. Samunaranus. Of this your favourites have also only an approximate representation, and they call it impartiality. So Gurdjieff's special word is Semun Iranos, SEMOONIRANOOS. So if we're breaking that down, we've got the word moon in there. And Iran, he often uses as a word for, not as the country, but he has a word called Iran Uranomaj. And Iran Uranomaj is the common cosmic process, or what objective science calls common cosmic exchange of substances. So we're trying to bring together all our centers so that we have a harmonious exchange of substances within us, our thinking and our feeling and our moving center all working together to get in touch with that higher centers, the higher versions of them, so that then we can be developed enough to think impartially and to feel impartially and to move impartially, or with that attitude in us. It doesn't make us disconnected, it doesn't detach us from everything, it just makes us see the whole of everything. It should not be making you isolated. It should be making you more connected with everything. The power to be, Sphalebrunolinean, or as your favourites would say, the potency not to be identified with and not to be affected by externals through one's inevitably inherent passions, can alone help him to acquire the possibility of a free and impartial constatation of all true phenomena appearing in the cosmic results around him. So again, one of Gurdjieff's words there, Sphalebrunolian, Svolibronolnian. So we don't want to be affected by other people's thoughts, attitudes, ways they are with us. We need to be impartial to them, not let it affect us. So it's difficult, you know, we want to be liked, we want everybody to like us. Chiefly owing to their abnormal education, certain of them had not yet acquired enough ground to be convinced on the non-actualizability of their dreams, which they owed to that notorious abnormal education of theirs, with the result that they were still not yet sufficiently disillusioned to be able to be fully impartial and just. And we're not, are we? The way we're brought up by our peers, our teachers, our schools and our educations, we're taught to follow everybody else, do the same as everybody else. We're given a set way of looking at the world when we should be looking at it in a more roundabout everything world. They like to, you know, tell us science has the answers, history knows what it's talking about, where, you know, we know that science doesn't have the answers, things are still being discovered. Most science are theories, not actual known results. And if you go and study different scientific things, you'll see most of the time they say it's a theory. The Big Bang is a theory, it's not been proven yet. The electric universe, one of my favorites, is a theory. It's not yet been proven, that they have enough evidence to prove that maybe that is the right way. But that's just because I like electric universe theory. History is written by the winners, so we get a one-sided view of history all the time, where if we go and do our research, we start learning about other views to history of what really went on and what happened in the past. And again, a lot of it is speculation. Shall I use that word? You know, okay, we know dates, we know when kings and queens of England ruled, or in Spain when they ruled, or how certain kings and queens were deposed and governments came in instead. but we don't know the full story. We don't know everybody's history behind it. We only have what is written by the winners, and their historians then write down what they want to be said. The awakening of thought. Objective thought is a look from above. Well, this is from Jean de Salzman, by the way. Without this look upon me, I cannot know that I exist. I have the power to rise above myself and to see myself freely, to be seen. So when we're trying to do this impartiality, we're trying to work upon ourselves that we see ourselves, but also everything else. My thought has the power to be free, but for this to take place, it must rid itself of all the associations which hold it captive, passive. And that's what I meant about when we're coming up with schools and science and history and such like. We're being told what to think from their associations. It must cut the threads that bind it to the world of images, to the world of forms. It must free itself from the constant pull of the emotions. It must feel its power to resist this pull. Its objective power to watch over this pull while gradually rising above it. In this movement, thought becomes active. It becomes active while purifying itself. Therefore, its true aim is revealed, a unique aim to think, to realize who I am, to enter into this mystery. And once we can start doing that, and hopefully have our master I, we do start seeing things in the right way, with real eyes. So views from the real world, this is from. The human machine has something that does not allow it to remain impartial. That is, to reason calmly and objectively without being touched on the raw, which is what happens when people don't agree with our attitudes or don't agree with our thoughts, and somebody starts coming back at you of, no, it's like this, you get hurt. But instead we should be able to take on what they're saying and digest it and know that people have different views. We might learn something. At times it is possible to free oneself from this feature by special efforts. So it's back to the old special efforts. By working on ourselves, we can develop this mentation, this impartial mentation. You have to be impartial. He who has a real eye is impartial towards all external things. He is impartial towards all people. So this is from C.S. Knott, the following. A man can choose only when he is free inside. An ordinary man cannot choose, cannot sum up the situation quickly and impartially, for with him his external is his internal, which is like what is happening. We get what's happening on the external world affects us, and we let it affect us internally, and we shouldn't be. It is necessary to work on oneself, to learn to be unbiased, to sort out and analyze each situation as if one were another person. Only then can one be just. And only when you can be really impartial as regards yourself will you be able to be impartial towards others. So it's the inner work first, learning to be impartial on yourself. This all comes down to the self-observation and understanding why you're that kind of person, who you are, why you act like this or do that. Observe why it's happening. Figure out what made you like that. And deal with it. I was going to say then, but you kind of work with it and figure out that you mustn't let the past actions that have been done to you affect you in this now. Getting over it is such an easy way of just saying get over it, but we work on it. We study it, we analyze, don't we? But maybe we analyze and study too much that it goes into ourselves and goes deep down, and we hold on to them kind of things and they niggle at us, and we need to find a way to let them go. And you can find that through all different ways. There's different traditions and teachings and workings out there to help you with that, including the Gurdjieff work. He discusses all this of how we can help ourselves by doing this, and it takes super effort. and going over things, which is why Gurdjieff repeats things a lot. You know, I've had people say to me, he always says the same thing over and over again. Yeah, because they're important. And working on yourself is important, and doing it again and again and again is important. So I'm going to finish with not. We must ponder what is said about the observatory on Mars, from which Beelzebub was able to observe impartially and critically the life of man on the Earth. We have to learn to adopt this impartial attitude towards our own organism. And Beelzebub was watching us from Mars through his Tescuanu, his telescope, for centuries and centuries, and watching our development and our de-evolvement, and then our development again of some people developed and came out with the teachings to help people, and it lasted for a little while, and then we devolved back down again. And that's why we have to do it for a long time on ourselves. It's not a quick fix. We have to work on ourselves day by day, minute by minute. But remember to be in the now and try and be here now. And for now, I'm going to go. Till next time, peace.